All right, here we go. It is podcasting time, and this is going to be a fantastic hour because I have Varun Jain joining us from Uni Hawk. You're going to love this because Varun is an entrepreneur who's working in the academic adjacent land. He's a consultant. He helps parents, he helps students, he helps others decide and get a handle on what they're thinking about when it comes to their education, the path they want to take, how they want to get there. And he's been doing this for quite a while. And what I love about Varun when you hear his story is that it's not like he just woke up one day and said, hey, I want to get into this field. He lives it. He has used everything he's doing himself. You're going to love this conversation. Let's start right now. Here we go. Varun, hello, welcome.
Hey, James. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
beautiful morning.
Oh, it's a wonderful day because I get to see you. You look fantastic. You're smiling. We're talking education. You know that I'm an educator, so I'm looking at this as a bit of information for others, but really, I just want to pick your brain.
Amazing. Like, I really like your shirt, those colors. I haven't, seen somebody at 8 a.m. wearing that fantastic
hold on.
shirt.
And you know, you got to get this. I got the shoes on as well. And as you can see, I've got the matching socks. So it's a full package.
Sure. Right. My team actually told me to wear a jacket today. So I think there's a little bit of a mismatch here, but I wish I had that shirt. Yeah.
Hey, I want to get started right away here because we're going to talk education. Now, you were very clear when you sat down. You said, okay, let's be clear here. I'm not an educator, and we don't do education. We help people with their education decisions.
That's right. So see, education is not our destination. You know, it's a part of our journey where we want to be. So when actually we meet students and parents, and there are students who could be, let's say, in a high school, and they literally have no idea. If their parents ask us, "Hey, what do you want to do, and what do you want to be?" So our goal is basically to help students and families identify what kind of a lifestyle a child want to lead in the future.
Who's thinking about that? Like, who starts thinking about that, right?
Exactly, right? So they probably know that they want to live in New York, or they don't want 8 to 5 job in a government organization. They want to take risks in life. They know that they're passionate about, design or artificial intelligence, or they just have, this high level of empathy. They really want to help people, but they also like health sciences. So we use those tools to kind of help kids identify and get some exposure to the lifestyle they might want to lead, and then come back and actually draw this roadmap to be able to reach that lifestyle. And education, or I would say higher education, or a university or a college program or course, or where you should go, which country you should go to, is just part and parcel of that entire journey to the destination.
So anyone who's listening right now has now had the perfect introduction by Varun Jain of Uni Hawk about what he does with this organization that you set up. You're the entrepreneur who's put this together. But what becomes even interesting is Uni Hawk is fairly new on the market. And there's an and a but it doesn't mean that you're new to this area. I want to back up a little bit because as I said in my introduction, where you are today in 2023 has been a long road that you have
totally.
And on this long road, this long path that you've been walking along, you yourself have had some issues. You've had to work through challenges. You've literally been the student who you're helping now. So I want to back up to 2005, and I want you to tell me the story, how you got started, even thinking that this is the area that you want to start investigating.
Right. It was, and you used the word issues. Actually, I would say they were all opportunities that I had around me.
Do you think that's part of the problem with people? People in general, when we're sitting down, we've got all these things going on in our life. We're trying to figure out how we're going to make some money, how we're going to afford to go to school. And we look at a problem. We instantly say, I've got a problem. This is not working. Instead of saying, hey, I've got an opportunity here.
Right, totally. Because you see, there are a lot of things that are available to us. Let's say, for example, my kids or kids around us, college education is obvious to them. Hey, it's after high school, we go to college and we go to like XYZ fancy university in the US, UK. But, if I go back in time, I was born to parents who never went to college. So for me, I didn't even know if I would actually ever go to college. So
Right.
that's how this whole journey started. But I think my parents did give me everything that they could. And I think the most beautiful thing was that they allowed me to do whatever I wanted to do. So during school days, I would be writing poems and, I'd be participating in debate competitions and drama. And I'll also study and, get my marks. But if you came to me back in 1998, 99, when I was actually about to hit my last couple of years of high school and asked me, hey, Varun, what do you want to be?
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, you know what? I don't know. I might become a doctor. I might study engineering. I will probably do something like accounting. But I knew the kind of lifestyle I wanted.
Right. So you had the lifestyle that you wanted to live, but how you're going to get there, what you're going to do. And I would imagine as you were sitting in those classrooms and you're looking to your left and you're looking to your right, everyone's doing the same thing.
That's right. But I knew that all of them had different passions. I really enjoyed, my social life with my friends. I enjoyed communicating with people. And I just did not know what kind of career I can have where actually I can utilize these skills that I have.
What list did you have going down at that point? 1998. What were you thinking if you were to say, a couple of things?
Well, actually, that time we had this evening news that used to come on the national television, and I was like,
"You're dating yourself here."
So I was like, I'll become this news reader. That was one of the things I used to read a lot about.
You look like a news reader right now.
Okay,
this is this is very good. Yeah.
Okay. So it all started from there. And then in high school, I thought I'll become a doctor. I did know a few doctors, and I was like, hey, that's a great lifestyle. They really help a lot of people. They have a lot of respect. So I ended up taking bio and chemistry in my high school. And at the end of high school, I realized, hey, this is not what I wanted to do. And I took a plunge and, ended up studying economics with a little bit of math and market research, and started doing a lot of internships, went and worked with a call center. And then I actually started to work, with student services office, where actually we were guiding students to apply to my university.
I want to pause you for a second because I'm interested here.
Yeah.
You were doing a lot of internships. You're in a call center. In a sense, you were testing the pool of things you could do.
Well, that's right. But at the same time...
And learning what you don't want to do.
Absolutely. And see, I needed pocket money.
Yeah.
I was in college.
There we go.
So it all started from there. So I was looking out to do things that I could do using the skills that I had, while actually making a little bit of, money, a few dollars, so that I can actually hang out with rest of my international friends that I had in Singapore.
At the start of this whole conversation, you were very clear that your parents were very much behind you. As you were going through all these steps to make some pocket money, to keep doing some stuff and figure out what you wanted to do, your parents continued to stand behind you.
Totally,
and encourage you.
It's just that. Yes. My dad always said that, hey, go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I have limited resources. I will offer everything that I have. But yes, if in case you fail, get up, do it again, get up, do it again. And if you fail again, just come back home. So I think I had at the back of my mind, that cushion to go back to if I ever failed. And I think the expectations sometimes stress us out a lot, even from ourselves, and especially from our parents at that age.
Sure.
And
when you were talking that, you've got a great high school, you're coming out with some great high school courses.
Right.
You may be thinking medicine. A lot of parents want, medicine, law, business, that's
engineering.
Engineering. There we go. Those are the big four.
That's right.
And the kids are looking at this going, I want to write poetry. I want to make a film. And there are all sorts of things that those skills
or I don't know what I want to do.
Or I don't know.
And actually, James, genuinely, I did not know. I didn't even know the profession that I am in currently existed. All right.
That's amazing.
So that's
hence
it.
the big smile on your face. It's like, I didn't even know it existed. Here I am. Can you imagine?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I just loved as soon as I entered this space. I was in Singapore. I got into a university in Singapore, which was a pretty good school, got some scholarship. And then I started to share my experience with others. And when I started to share my experience with others, it helped them. and they got into universities, and they got scholarships, and they got into Ivy Leagues in the US and Oxbridge in the UK. And I'm like, great. Number one, it made me feel amazing. It made me feel fulfilled. When people came with this 100 words long text thanking me that how I have changed their lives, how they did not believe they could actually achieve this, that was amazing. Second, I curated a product out of it or a service, and started to sell it. So yes, I was able to make a profession out of it.
So what did you call yourself when you were doing this in 2005? How did you build this out as a service? You're kind of doing it in the cafeteria. You were doing it. How did it start?
So while I was in Singapore, there were a few of these, companies where actually you can enroll yourself as a private tutor, or a student counselor, and then they actually find a match for you, and then you actually go and teach those kids. So I actually went homes of high school kids, and I was teaching them economics and accounting, etc. And then those kids actually wanted to go to college, etc. And I was like, hey, you know what? I can help you out. And I never studied in America, but I think 80% of the kids that I have sent went to, the top schools across the US. So the reading really helped. The research helped. And then helping those students helped me get better. So yeah, that's how I got in touch with those kids. And then moving on, after having 5-6 years of experience, I came to the UAE in 2011.
Why the UAE?
Well, I think I spent quite a bit of time in Singapore. I was in my comfort zone, and I wanted to just move out of that comfort zone. And I was like, hey, let me leave Singapore and try another place. So I actually...
This is sounding like a theme in your life, Varun. You get in the comfort zone, get out of the comfort zone, you get back into a comfort zone, get out of a comfort zone. I'm starting to hear a pattern.
Wow, you just came up with that, but it's true. I do get bored, if I'm not stretching myself, and that's what I actually tell the candidates I work with as well. And that's the beauty of my job, that I get to meet ambitious and very different people on day-to-day basis. And
it's like the job everyone wants.
Exactly. It's challenging. You just don't know who you're meeting. You don't know their goals, and then you're gonna help them figure it out. So it's quite interesting. So yeah, I landed in Dubai. It was a very happening name, I would say. Even that time, it is even more happening now. And yeah, I started working as an admissions counselor here, test prep, etc., helping students identify. And also I worked with a lot of working adults. So there were candidates.
That's really interesting.
Exactly. There were auditors who were working for like Big Four, and they said that I'm done with auditing and I want to switch and I want to go for an MBA, or somebody wanted to do public policy. I even worked with candidates who were like in mid-40s and wanted to, go back to school to upskill themselves, to switch their industries. Some of them actually felt very outdated or not updated, and they wanted to update their skills and be relevant. And I've seen these candidates with education or say experience changing their industries from like a very traditional industry to a startup. Some of them actually were working for traditional banks and moved on to working with, let's say, companies like Amazon and Google, etc. So it was great. So I want
to fast forward here for a second. So you land 2011, you start doing this, and then it progresses through. But you're staying in the same field.
That's right.
At what point? So now when we're up to 2023, and then we'll back into what we're doing and what you're doing, and talk about some of the insights and lessons, etc. But what made you decide that you wanted to become the entrepreneur who established Unihawk?
Right.
Your own entity, as opposed to working for others, because that's pretty comfortable to do that. And there's any number of institutions across the Emirates that want your service.
That's right. So, actually, I did become an entrepreneur in 2011 when I started a company which I exited late last year, just about, say, 4 months ago, and I curated Unihawk. The whole reason was I wanted to...
love that. I love the way you describe this. You curated Unihawk. It's not you started it. It's not you established it. You curated it. That's a whole different thinking that's going on there.
You see, James, I think after spending over 17, 18 years in this space working with students, I knew the students, I knew the families, I knew the candidates, working adults, and at the same time, I knew the colleagues in my industry.
Right.
And a journey of a counselor like myself or a trainer, that I was.
Yeah.
How can I actually build an organization that, number one, caters to this 120, $130 billion company within industry within this region?
Which is a huge amount of money.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
If you combine South Asia and other markets, it's a huge industry. Number one. Two, you see teachers and counselors do not sometimes get even paid well. So I wanted to build an organization that can actually give them space to work and gain benefits like they would get in an investment bank or a big consulting firm or a multinational company. So I wanted to curate this space which actually offers everything. So if you are a 13-year-old, you don't know what you want to do, you want to do a psychometric test. Two, you're a family that doesn't know whether I should go to an IB school or a British curriculum school, or I should stay back in a regional curriculum school. We will actually guide you. If a kid doesn't know how to actually build their profile or, give them exposure to different industries, from medicine to, building their leadership skills, to helping them apply to universities, to help them apply to Ivy Leagues, to help them apply to colleges across the UAE, help them find the right fit. And in this journey, whatever is required, that is what we wanted to offer through Uni Hawk, and build not just the brick and mortar business, but also utilize technology to enable the process, to replicate the process, to train more people who actually, I love the way, and I'm just switching a little bit, I love the way GMC, General Medical Council in the UK, actually hires the MBBS students, and they really pay a lot of attention to the level of empathy those high school kids have before they actually sign them up for the MBBS program, apart from their bio and chemistry scores. And that's what we do as well when we bring our team members on board. Apart from their knowledge and experience, it's very important that, do they really want to help these families and students? Do they relate to them? What is their story? So that's very important to us. So coming back, I wanted to just curate this platform which not only helps the students and families, but also helps people like me, people like Varun Jain in 2008 and 2011 and 2015 to grow and see future in the industry and offer awesome services. Yeah.
Okay, I want to throw a small curveball in here, and it's not a curveball per se. I'm gonna explain it with a bit of a story. So I mean, I've had children who have gone through exactly what you're describing, trying to figure out, are they IB? Are they a regional schooling system? Are they a British schooling system? Where do they fit? And as parents, it was a huge task. But on top of that huge task, we had the in-house folks at the schools who were also directing, who were also having conversations with our children to help them make those decisions.
That's right.
And so this is where I want to sort of situate ourselves a little bit in this conversation for just a second. I'm not throwing any dispersion on the schools and their counselors.
Right.
But in saying that, there were a number of times where the counselors were living in a bit of an echo chamber and directing, in the case of my own children, in a direction that clearly wasn't the place they needed to be, but looked really good for the school and was the way most students in the school went. And so, for instance, I got one son. Both of my sons went through very different schooling situations. But I have one son who bucked what they were being instructed, followed our directions, because I feel a lot like maybe your parents were with my children. It's like, whatever you want to do, just do it well. And I don't care what it is. I don't care what university you go to. I don't care if you don't go to university. And even my kids would look at me and go, "Dad, you're a PhD. You've gone, you've studied all your life." And I'm going, PhD is not the be all and end all. And I said, and why? You got to ask people why they do a PhD anyway. And my kids look at me and said, "Well, why'd you do a PhD?" I said, "To do the PhD." I mean, it was a challenge. Could I do it? And could I do it at a top-ranked Canadian university in French? Could I do that? And everyone would say, you can't do that. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Well, I did it. And so I said, that's the why I did it, which was a huge issue. I probably need to come and see you, because for me, it became a huge issue after, because I finished. Well, what do you do with it now? Well, I didn't want to be a professor. That was I just kind of fell into that. That was never my goal in doing a PhD, was do a PhD.
Right.
So back to my children, my one son was being pushed in a very clear direction, to head to university.
Right.
And as parents, we're looking at this, and we're looking at his scholastic abilities, and we're going, look, he's a smart kid, but that's not the direction he wants to go. And he didn't. He went a different direction, went to a college system, say kind of like HCT here in the UAE, but back in Canada. So he's in the community college system.
That's right.
And totally unbeknownst to the counselors at his school. So this is where we tie it back in. They weren't really sure of what it was. They weren't really sure of what it was doing. They actually probably had a bit of a negative view of that system. He finished, did his studies, finished top of his class, got his dream job.
Excellent.
And you go back and his laughing side of it. And again, by going through exactly what you're going to walk us through and how you're helping people to clarify their ideas. But he looks at his colleagues, his friends from school, who haven't necessarily graduated, haven't necessarily finished in the field they wanted to do, and are still now trying to figure out what they want to do after. And he's going, I'm doing my dream job.
That's right.
So I want a long roundabout rambling James talking to say, how do you situate and deal with some of these conflicts with parents and schools and where you guys live adjacent to it all? How do you fit in? How do you make it work?
Wow, that's I would say it's not a question. I think it's a whole societal way of thinking, or the way actually community expects us to live life, etc., that we are talking about. Everything comes down to you as an individual. And what I have learned in the past, I would say, especially, 1 year when I moved out and, curated Uni Hawk, was that we need to teach our children as parents, as mentors, as teachers, as even, to our friends, that let us not, focus on blaming anybody. Let us understand how we can educate ourselves, how we can actually take informed decisions in life, and how we have an ability, or how we build an ability to take decisions in our life and own those decisions. So it's a life skill that actually we have to start teaching children from very early in life, and I think teachers, counselors, parents play a very, very important role in there. So when I walk into school, I do rely on my teachers to guide me, but at the end of the day, the decision has to be mine. When counselors tell me these are the options that you have, but the decision has to be mine. So I think we are going to gather information to college, to school, to the universities. But at the end of the day, what I want to do in my life is my decision. Now, whatever I studied, am I actually directly using it in what I do on a day-to-day basis? No. But that entire experience really helped me, do what I do today. So I think you brought up three important things. Number one, the role of schools and the counselors in the formal high school education. Again, we have to identify what do we want and does it work for us. So I do actually know quite a few students currently. One of my close friends, 2 kids are being homeschooled, and we actually are helping them, with the curriculum. And, the one kid is like 11 and one is 13, and they are doing really well because it works for them.
Right.
But
that's a key point, isn't it? That it's not a one size fits all.
Exactly.
And what works for you might not work for me, and what works for the other person. And likewise in our choices, everyone's got their own baggage.
Absolutely. And that is why we do not have to follow what others are doing. As I said, it goes back to the decision making, not just of students, even parents. Parents are scared. There are parents communities. Oh my God, everybody is going to summer school. I have to go to summer school.
Everyone's got a tutor. I need a tutor.
Exactly. And there is a spring break. Oh, after school activities. Hey, can we sit back and talk to our own children and figure out what works for them? Why do we have to push them to do what others are doing? So it's decision-making of parents, it's decision-making of children. I think we should go out to gather information. Now, when you're going to college, of course, it's an expensive way of gathering information, knowledge, and experience. But it's, again, for you to decide whether you want it or not. So that goes back to, again, what are your dreams? What are your goals? Where you want to be? And in that journey, does that college degree or higher education help you? Does that outstanding IB or outstanding British curriculum school will help you reach there? So I think it's the way of thinking. It's the way of defining your goals. So for instance, I know these two kids who actually curated this beautiful high school idea to include in their college applications. COVID hit, they both got into Stanford, and then they decided to take a gap year and implement that idea. They, got some funding, and now currently they run $1 billion organization and they are college dropouts, or they never even started college, and they're just high school passouts. At the same time, I know a few kids who actually ended up going to, say, University of Toronto with, some $100,000 scholarship, are very well settled and pursuing their consulting job in Toronto and, became Canadian citizens now. At the same time, I know a kid who actually went to UAL, and studied this product design program, and he's currently working in Netherlands. So again, they decided a goal and they worked backwards. It's just all about that. So is that one of the key things? I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Is that one of the key steps in the Uni Hawk curated process? And I'm giving it a name. That's right.
That when someone knocks on the door, when someone gets in touch, how do they get in touch with you, by the way? Just
log on to www.unihawk.com.
You heard it, www.unihawk.com. Someone logs in, they put in a request. That becomes one of the main things. Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself?
Well, actually, even not just that's the question. We just try to know you better.
Yeah.
Who are you? What are you? Because I think if you ask me today, hey, Varun, what do you want to do next in your life? I might know and I might not know. And if you ask, especially a 13-year-old or a 15-year-old, they might just get intimidated. So
absolutely, yeah. I think. Oh no, they're going to look over at their parents. What do I want to do? It's like what do you want me to do? Is right. Yeah.
So at Unihawk, our philosophy is something that I actually learned in college. It's a Japanese philosophy, which is SECI, SECI. Socialization, externalization, combination, and internalization to be able to create a new knowledge. So in our space, whoever comes in, whether you're a 13-year-old or you're a 23-year-old or you're a 33-year-old, we sit down and we socialize with you, we talk to you, we try to understand you better. And after that, we help you externalize everything that's going on within your mind, whether you know your goals, you don't know your goals, your passions, your activities, etc., etc. And then we combine it with our knowledge, right? What we know, what colleges we know about, what programs we know about, what kind of activities we can actually offer you. And then, candidates are able to create this new awesome knowledge. Hey, you know what? I have this eureka moment. I want to do this. Now, tell me, how can I reach there? So with 13 to 18 years old, we have a lot of special projects that we run. And in December, for instance, we ran the Harvard YLC program, which was a Youth Lead the Change program, whereby we brought in 10 mentors from Harvard. And a lot of kids between the age of 13 and 18 were there. And
so what do they do?
So basically, they all were divided into groups of 10, and they were led by these Harvard mentors. They all came up with this idea which could leave a social impact, and it was an entrepreneurial idea. It was, to help them figure out their own leadership skills. And you can be a leader in your own way. You don't have to be like an awesome speaker to be a leader. You can lead in your own space. You can lead a small team. You can lead yourself with your idea, etc. So these kids, and many of them actually never spoke in front of people. And
That's amazing.
exactly, it was so beautiful to see the closing ceremony when actually these 67 kids came on that stage and actually presented their ideas. It was beautiful. So
That whole experience,
mhm.
how does that fit into the larger picture?
So number one, kids realized they got to know about their own skills. There was a great personality development, I would say, that happened in those 3 days. At the same time, they got to talk to these mentors who actually came from different specializations. Somebody was doing economics, international relations, biological sciences, computer science, AI, international relations that I mentioned, and political science, sociology, anthropology. There was this girl who was doing resilience studies. And
Resilience studies.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was a major that actually she curated herself. It doesn't exist in the university. So it was an eye-opener for the children. Hey, these are the options that actually I have. And then they got to know, hey, there is something called an Ivy League, and there are 8 Ivy Leagues. There is something called Harvard. And half of those mentors were fully funded by the university, and all of them actually had some sort of scholarship. So they shared that information with students. And those who felt that I can't ever afford to go to the US to study, they also are going to now walk on that path. Hey, I'm going to work hard, build my profile, take those standardized tests that we prep for, SAT, etc., and build my profile and get into those universities. So I think, to me, it's that that fire that we need to ignite in somebody, that I can do it and I want to do it. Even if I don't know what I want to do, I'll figure it out. So that was the outcome of the program. And at the same time, this program, the project that they actually curated and they led, has become an important part of their college application profile as well. It's a part of their CV. It shows a skill set. They can talk about it in an interview or in a podcast with James. So other than that, we are actually curating a lot of now spring programs as well. So spring break is coming up in the UAE, and everyone wants to go to London and New York and LA, for summers and for spring programs, for residential programs to experience the universities.
Why? I mean, is everyone aiming for the name brands that they hear a lot about? Like, I'm curious, just sidestep a little bit, which I think is great. UCLA is wonderful, and and Pepperdine, if that's where you really want to go, or Harvard or Cambridge or Oxford, and the list goes on. But there are a lot of schools out there.
That's true.
How do you help students to see and think a little wider than that narrow? This is, a school might have the top rating in the Times rating guide of higher education. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the best school for me. How do you help them think about that?
Right. So as I started with the whole Seki model by Nonaka, the Japanese guy, and so the goal of our style at Uni Hawk is to help candidates navigate through finding their right fit. So to me, right fit is very, very important.
Okay.
So my first exposure to international education was in Singapore. It was the right fit for me. Had I actually gone to, say, the UK or the US and to those very intimidating top universities at that time, it would not have probably helped me as much. I was sitting with students and all of us were struggling with, our language and everything. And it was the right space. I found my good space. So to me,
that's a key. You've said that over and over again in different ways. Finding your good space, finding what makes you happy, finding what you're content with. This is a reoccurring theme as well in this conversation. It's so reassuring to hear.
That's right. And that's when you define your own success. You don't have to actually... you don't have to have your goals based on what others have achieved in life and what you have read in a book. Yes, those people inspire us, but at least it gives you an ability to define something of your own. So going back, it's very important to find the right fit. So that's what we do. We educate students about it. So for example, I was just having a call with a parent a few days ago, and kid got into this amazing engineering and science school called Rose Hulman, which is a very small school, like just about 3,000 students. And
very, very bespoke, very niche.
Exactly. Yeah. And she has also applied to a school called Harvey Mudd, which is in Claremont, an hour away from LA. And many people have not even heard of these schools.
Yeah.
And they are amazing. They're great. Their
yeah.
class size is just 10, 12 students versus you go to a big university where you're sitting in a lecture hall with 300 students. So then it comes down to your learning style. Hey, what's my learning style? What I want? There are some kids who just like talking to their teachers.
Yeah.
They're professors, and professors might not have time if they're teaching, a class of 300 or 500
You're talking
candidates.
to a TA at 300.
Exactly, right? So that's one important thing. Second is some of us actually, for example, I know many of my friends, they land in Dubai. They're like, you know what? We go everywhere in the world. When we land in Dubai, we're like, hey, this is the place we love. This is where we want to be.
Yeah.
So the city is very important. Some people, if you go to a beautiful, great suburban campus or a campus in a village, university is beautiful, but is that the life you want to live? I mean, you have to drive maybe an hour or 2 hours to get to a mall. And that's important to know if you want that. Those 4 years are very important for you. International exposure, you need to look at the ratio of international students within your class, because kids, especially in Dubai or in the UAE, actually have a lot of international exposure. My daughter currently has 20 different nationalities in her class of like 25 kids.
Can you imagine?
Exactly, right? So that's very important for them. And then at the same time, it comes down to what is the return on investment? Do I want to spend that kind of money? Will I get scholarship? If I'm paying 100% tuition fee, if I'm bearing all the expenses, what's the return on investment, right? Can I actually get a job in that country or in that city? So there are a lot of factors which will help you identify the right fit. So do not focus on going to Ivy Leagues. It's great that you go to Ivy Leagues if that's the right fit for you. But just go to a university in Dubai if that helps you achieve your goals in life, and that's perfectly fine.
Do you find you have similar conversations? The age changes, the life experiences change, but between mature learners, people who are looking to change things, looking to get into their MBA, maybe go back to school and study in a whole different area, do you find a lot of similarities between young graduates and fresh learners?
I'd say a lot more, actually. I'd say the young learners currently are a lot more fearless than actually
fearless.
Exactly.
Young and foolish.
Totally. Yeah. So you see with the adult learners or people who are in mid-20s or mid-30s, they already have a life that they have built on their own.
Right.
And then moving out of that comfort zone for them, it's like, oh, I live in Dubai. I've got this, awesome job, and I have this lifestyle. Do you want to, disrupt that whole thing? Leave your job, and there's a huge opportunity cost. You're not going to make money for next 1 year or 2 years, depending on the length of the program. And then what happens after that? So it's not always about just the monetary benefits of pursuing a degree. It's also about what you want. So I've met actually several ambitious candidates who have actually left amazing jobs that would pay them anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million dirhams a year, and they take that call. It's like, this is not what I want to do. And if you see most of the top universities or even business schools, from London Business School to INSEAD to Harvard to Stanford, etc., they all actually have those awesome, successful people who left their career at peak and joined that classroom program. So, and then many of them have actually become entrepreneurs after they left. So to answer your question, there is a difference. I would say the young learners are fearless right now. They have a lot of support of their parents as well. So, but at the same time, I have seen a huge change in working adults, especially since COVID. A lot of them actually want to upskill themselves. They want to upgrade their skills. I work with a lot of people from financial institutions. They actually want to now learn a little bit of analytics, a little bit of programming languages, coding. I actually know candidates who are leaving their traditional jobs and going for art and design type of programs as well. So I'd say it's, again, individuals. It's
asking questions. It's asking the right questions.
Absolutely.
And listening to yourself. I think it's one thing to ask the questions, which your team of curators obviously helps people do, but it's listening to the answers as well.
That's right.
And paying attention to how they connect things.
Totally.
One of the things we spoke about was, and you alluded to it, is with I'm going to go back to high school finishers. And as they're starting to think about where they want to go, the role of that university application letter, and it's almost more than a letter now. It's a package where they're demonstrating their their investment in lifelong learning, their entrepreneurialness, and the list goes on and on. What have you noticed in that? I mean, it's many years you've been working with students in this realm.
20, yeah.
What have you noticed? What has changed over the 20 years, or has anything changed in the way students are putting together those letters, those packages?
I would say the only thing that has changed is that because people, families, and students are more aware, it has become a lot more competitive because people are more aware.
Yeah.
That's it. I would say what universities want is to, again, build this great community of people, of students who bring different skill sets together. And that's what you need to show the university. What do you bring to the table, right? And follow a framework. They want to see somebody who's disciplined. Show your high school coursework, what you have done. You've got grades, you show improvement. I'm doing really well in my 5 subjects out of 6 in IB. And see, in my 6th subject, I was not doing well last year, but look at my grades this year. I'm doing better. So you show with discipline, consistency. All right. Other than that, you actually bring who are you as an individual. So do not follow what others are doing.
Which is hard. It's hard. I'm looking at my friends. Oh, but she did this and he did this. And look what she got this offer. And oh, someone last year did this and they got that. That's really hard.
Which is great to inspire yourself.
Think inspiration. Don't think
that's
emulation.
Right. That's what all the fashion designers do, right? When it's not that they copy others' designs, they actually get inspired by others' designs, right? So we should get inspired by others. So so the difference between someone who gets into, let's say, an Ivy League and the one who has awesome grades, great profile, everything in place, and they come back and say, why did I get rejected?
Yeah.
It's just that, hey, I can't see you in your application.
Which is where your team of curators becomes very useful because you've got this pedigree. You've been doing this for a long time. You're looking at it and saying, okay, I know you. We've been talking. Where's the you?
Exactly. And that's what. So we have to stop thinking about what admissions committees want to read in your application.
Which is what people are always thinking. It's like, what do they want to see? Where do they want to see? Yeah.
Exactly. And kids, high schoolers, or even for that matter, working adults who are applying to top B schools, etc. Everyone has their beautiful story that actually they can share in their application, apart from your high school scores, SAT scores, your list of activities, recommendation letters. Those are, of course, important part of your application. But other than that, reflecting on who you are and being able to put it on that paper and communicate it to the university is very important. That, hey, this is who I am. I know who you guys are, and see, we are a great fit. Yeah. It's like a marriage, between a student and that university. So the high schooler has to just show that. And at Unihawk, this is what actually our agenda is, to help 13 to 17 years old build their profile, help them to shadow a lot of jobs, internships, do some online programs. We're just curating this beautiful program in association with a top-notch university in the UAE, which would be the first ever, I would say, residential program open to international students. Hey, instead of going to London or the US, you can actually come to the UAE and do a summer program or a spring program or a winter program, residential program in this beautiful city. And it would give exposure to kids who want to do artificial intelligence, to who want to pursue fashion design or marketing, entrepreneurship. So followed by, we actually do a lot of, I would say, counseling for parents and help them.
Which is a whole, nice little spin on things, because we've been talking about this. And as much as the students need this counseling, the parents need to be a little bit re-educated on that thought process as well.
As a parent myself, I don't quite like the word re-educated. So
what word would you use?
I would say I want to become
counseled.
I would say more aware.
Yeah,
That's
more
it.
aware.
Simple.
Okay.
That's it. I want to be more aware. It's an important decision. I think for most of the parents, their children's future or what they're going to do next is actually more important than what they themselves actually wanted to do in the past. I know parents who actually changed their complete lifestyle to save for their kids' college education. I know parents who would send kid to an XYZ international school and cut on their other expenses. So they really do go out of their way to kind of support their kids' future, which is fantastic. But at the same time, many of them are not aware. And little knowledge is a dangerous thing, but at the same time, a lot of knowledge is also a dangerous thing, you know? So how to take that decision.
Well, and talking to your friends and the friends I know someone who knows someone who knows someone.
Exactly.
We need the third party.
Exactly.
Unihawk.
So totally. Why not? So again, we help them just figure out their final destination and the goal. We help them define that goal, and we help them work backwards. Step 1, step 2, step 3. So whether it's the exposure, deciding the program, budgeting, Excel sheets with your proper list of universities. Do you want to immigrate? Do you want to come back to the UAE? The job prospects, etc., exposure.
It's got to be terrifying for so many. I mean, there's so many boxes to tick there, so much to think about. Like, this is.
We work with a health coach currently, and we have, again, curated this beautiful program which actually prepares students before they actually leave home. Because I have actually seen kids falling sick. You know,
Absolutely.
the weather is different. They don't eat properly. They don't know what to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner. They don't have a study life balance. Some of them actually gain 30 kgs. Some of them actually lose 10 kgs. So I think that's an important aspect. And in the UAE, a lot of kids are actually, I would say they're independent in many ways, but they are not independent in many other ways where, you know, people have, you know, house helps and they don't know how to cook their own breakfast and how to do their laundry, etc. So it's a huge change, you know. So they have to be mentally prepared. So I would say we work with parents a lot. We help them in becoming more aware of different curriculums, etc., and then come up with a plan and help them at every stage, from test preparation to profile building to choosing the university, applying to universities, their visas. And even after kids are in the universities, we stay in touch with them to help them build, their CVs to get jobs, and then, connect them to our old students and alumni to, find an internship in South America or Africa or the Middle East, and then help them with their master's degree. So I would say in the past 10, 11 years, our team has been already doing that. And we just kind of, all of us came together and we bring in, like, I would say, as a team of over 60 full-timers under Uni Hawk, we bring like good, 500, 700 years of experience. And we are passionate about what we do to bring, I wouldn't say change, to help people walk on a path that will bring change in their lives.
So you've been talking about all the parts and all the things you do, and I mean, it's fantastic that you've got such a team that you've brought together. When, as a student, as a parent, when's the optimum time to engage with Unihawk? Because what I'm hearing is the sooner the better.
That's true.
The number you've thrown out is 13. Walk us through some of what your thinking is.
13, 14 is when the action begins.
Okay.
But you see, before you, when you go on a movie set, before action, there is a lot that actually goes into it.
Yeah.
So to me, you can actually start planning, as soon as your child is born. You can start thinking about it.
Start saving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's okay if you don't. It's up to you again. I'm a parent of 2, and I don't want to feel stressed about it. And as I said, and when I said that little knowledge is a dangerous thing, but at the same time, too much knowledge is also a dangerous thing.
You're at the opposite extreme here.
Exactly. So when I had to take a decision which school and which curriculum to choose, I was like, hey, I have awesome kids from all the schools and all the curriculums, and so I had kids from Indian curriculum to IB to British curriculum to French curriculum to SABIS curriculum to American curriculum, and they all have done well. So
depends on the student.
Exactly. So when to start is when you're ready to start as a family, I would say. But there's no harm in actually taking a counseling session or gathering information. And it also depends. Not everyone needs it. There are some people who are
Hold on,
really
you're
good at
telling me people don't need this? They don't need your service?
as I said, not everyone needs that service. So you see,
because I'm thinking, as I'm listening, I'm thinking everyone
Right.
needs this service. Like I can't think of anyone who doesn't need what you guys are helping people to clarify their thought process. I just see you guys as a little bit of a fog clearer.
right, and that's when I say that not everyone needs that service. That would be, let's say, maybe 80%, 90% people need it, but 10% do not, or 20% do not, because they already have that infrastructure around them.
Right.
So they probably have a family member they can actually talk to who has actually been to the university. There are parents who are actually very well aware. They have studied abroad. They are very involved in their kids' life. They know how to plan stuff.
Right.
They probably don't need it. And there are some kids who are awesomely driven.
Right.
And they have done their own research.
Yeah.
And sometimes they
They just know what they want to do.
Exactly. But yes, there are many who actually still need that service. And do call us, and we'd be happy to sit down and have a cup of coffee with parents as early as you want. I have a lot of young parents, who are my friends, etc., and they'll say, "Oh, is it the British curriculum? Is it the IB? Is it this curriculum? Where should I send?
Yeah.
Should I actually spend 60 or 80,000 dirhams a year right now? In school education?"
And they're looking at you as you've got the answers, you've got the inside. And
Exactly. So I do not have probably the answer, but I have enough information to help you reach that answer. Yes.
I always like to say that there isn't one curriculum that's the best curriculum. There are best curriculums.
Absolutely.
And so it's, as you said, it's if you were to distill down what you're doing at Uni Hawk, how you're helping people to get their thought process together into a coherent manner so that they can make better decisions, what would your top 3 pieces of advice be for students and parents? It could be separate, could be together. What would your top 3 pieces of advice be?
First one would be, again, be fearless. That's very, very important. And once you start feeling that you're fearless, you start believing in yourself more, and you actually become a better decision maker. So when
That's hard. It's easier to say than do, though.
but I also feel that it's a quick shift. It's an attitude shift. Once you shift, and I've seen that happening. And once you do that, within this first point, you actually become better at receiving the knowledge, receiving the information that you actually have. So that is the process of preparing yourself. Yeah. Second is simplify the information. Simplification really helps in life, and especially in this journey, because Dubai, UAE, or I would say the entire world now has a lot of information available. So James will come and say, "Hey, go to France and study in France." And Varun comes and tells you, "Hey, go and study in Canada." And someone else will say, "Oh, Ireland is fantastic." And someone will say, "Oh, you know what? How can you leave the UK? They have Oxbridge, And someone will say, "Oh, it's a lot cheaper to study in the UAE itself, and we have great education here." "Oh, is your kid ready to go to Australia?" So there is a lot of information.
Yeah.
All right. So simplification is very, very important. And
Be fearless. Simplify the information.
Simplify the information. And then start and be ready to implement it. Right. So when you start the implementation process, you really need to know, can you implement it on your own? So if you know how to color the walls of your house on your own, and you can actually fix everything on your own, fantastic. This process is exactly like that. It does require, I would say, expert advice at least. So if you think you have enough time to learn it on your own and execute it, great. If you do not, find a mentor. And that mentor doesn't have to be somebody that you pay. It could be a family member that already studied in that country where you want to go. It could be one of your cousins or uncles, or your parents' colleagues. So but find a mentor in that journey. So yeah, that's where it is. And if you don't find anyone else, yes, just call us at Unihawk.
Do you pinch yourself on a daily basis that, you started down this journey 2005, here we are in 2023, you've created just very recently Unihawk, it is a thriving. Do you pinch yourself kind of going, wow, this is all happening, this has happened, and it's going to continue to grow?
James, I think I actually feel rather very. I think it might sound a very negative word, but I never feel fulfilled for more than 15 minutes. So
Your wife, poor wife.
Well, that's right, and she's a very fulfilled woman, and
but
that's
she's got to constantly deal with you. It's like, okay, I want to do a little bit more. We got to do a little bit more. We got to do a little bit more. It's
I think people
slow down.
People wise, I'm very easy to impress.
Yeah.
So I feel very fulfilled and very thankful that all those that I have in my life are around me. But overall, I think we have a lot more to achieve right now, on both ends. How we want to contribute to the community of all the trainers and counselors and help them grow. Secondly, we want to offer excellent value, excellent services, excellent advice to each and every student and family that actually we work with. And that's when, when you were speaking about school counselors, etc., and all that, I think it all comes down to the individuals. And I think it all comes down to the recruitment process. So we at Unihawk really pay attention to that. So yes, I do pinch myself. Hey, you know what? You have 10 more things to do and catch up on. But yes, it's been very, very fulfilling. And when I was transitioning from my previous role to Unihawk, I had this vacuum of a few months, and I was like, hey, let me enter another industry and do this and that. And then I was like, hey, you know what? I just don't think I love anything else more than what I'm doing.
What other industry did you even consider?
Well, I was really keen in starting a cafe because I believe a lot in knowledge sharing.
And I can absolutely see the link there.
Yeah. So just have that open space and this where anybody can come of any age group and actually collaborate. So that was one of the things that I really wanted to do, actually, and probably can invite you there to record your next podcast.
Sounds like an idea.
Yeah.
One last question. 2011, you came to the UAE.
That's right.
It's 2023. The landscape of higher education in the UAE has changed dramatically. Are you seeing more and more students who would opt to leave the UAE and leave their families that have been here, choosing to stay now?
That's right. But so James, it's about it's not about staying back in the UAE. It's about, do I want to stay back at my home? When you turn 18, 19, you want to feel independent. And there are certain things which parents can't teach, and it's important for you to leave home at that time. And if parents feel that their child is prepared, then they would want them to leave. And that's why we have seen a huge influx of students.
So it's going the other way. People are leaving, but you got people coming in.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So there are a lot of actually students from Europe to Eastern Europe to Africa to South Asia, other Middle Eastern countries are coming to the UAE to study. Dubai is such a fantastic place. I think all those who live here, like both of us, know it really well. It's super safe for our kids and for high schoolers. Excellent opportunities. I mean, this is the country that's now allowing you to start your own ideas, curate your own ideas. There are unicorns now in the region. So I think it's a place of opportunities, definitely. But yes, at the same time, there are a lot of kids who are actually staying back, who want to study engineering, who want to study even law, business, but at the same time, medicine. I actually was just talking to a parent who 7 years ago decided to keep her daughter here to study medicine, and she completed her medicine and after took her PLAB and moved to the UK, and she's currently working there. So even the degrees that actually you get in the UAE currently are very, very good, and they're internationally recognized. So yes, again, it comes down to personal decision. what you want to do. But yes, UAE is fantastic. The quality of education is improving, has improved
And the
drastically.
options, the opportunities
Absolutely.
are
Yeah.
dramatic.
And there are a lot of options now. You get the same quality that you would get in the UK, US, or Australia now in the UAE. You've got beautiful campuses. You've got international student body. You've got professors like you who are teaching at the universities. So and excellent job opportunities. And
Seems to me like it's box ticks. Tick the box, tick the box, tick the box.
many of my students actually, they actually got golden visas now because of their performance. So I would say yes, if it fits into your plan, as I spoke about lifestyle, yes, UAE is a fantastic place to study.
Closing words. If you could give one piece of advice to a student today who's looking at their future, what would that piece of advice be?
I'd say that any career that you pick has a future. You know, a lot of us just talk about a few career choices, such as, computer science and artificial intelligence, etc. But I would say everything that you study and everything that you might want to study has a future. So if you decide to study English literature, no problem. If you decide to study resilience studies, no problem. If you decide to study anything, that has a future. So don't worry about it. Just study and do whatever you want to do with 100% of dedication, and you'll make a beautiful career out of it that you might not even be aware of today, like I wasn't 23 years ago.
Varun, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've absolutely enjoyed it. And I look forward to talking to you again and diving into some of the techniques that you use over at Unihawk.com is how we find you. I can't wait to carry on this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, James.
Yeah, thank you.
It was wonderful.
Unihawk.com is how you can get a hold of them online, across the socials. Varun's got, as he said, a fantastic team with over 500 years of experience, and it's all about helping you find your way. Thank you very much, and we'll do this all again really, really soon.
Thank you, James. Thanks for having me.
And a huge shout out to the folks at The Loop for supporting this podcast, and Arches Audio for our wonderful, wonderful theme music. And of course, we're recorded right here at the Rove downtown in Dubai.